Creative solutions company MNC Saatchi says that understanding and connecting into culture is one of the strongest means to build a powerful, enduring, and successful brand. So with that in mind, the company recently came out with its Culture Power Index as a tool to evaluate how criteria like desire and influence is built across different sectors. And joining me now with more is Rhonda Hiatt. She's a global CEO at MNC Saatchi Consulting. Rhonda, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me, Kristen.
What are your takeaways from this index?
So thanks so much for having us. At MNC Saatchi, we believe that cultural power is the ultimate growth lever for a business. It's a brand's currency that drives demand and desire. And so we've developed this index and have gotten to a set of criteria in our formula that actually evaluates how much influence and power a brand has within culture, and more importantly, how that correlates to business performance.
Let's talk about the business performance aspect, if we will. How have you seen that influence a company's ability?
Yep. So if we look across the four different drivers of the Cultural Power Index, we first and foremost look at brand desire. And so that's how much desire a brand has, that irrational, gotta have it, can't live without it aspect that we've all had as consumers. So we're actually looking at and measuring how much desire a brand has with its consumers. The second element is actually the influence of a brand. And that's how much a brand is putting out, how much they're connecting with their communities, resonating with the people that they ultimately want to connect with. The third element is actually what we call presence, and that really speaks to the scalability of a brand. So how present is it in our daily lives? How omnipresent might it be for us? And you can think about that. Big brands have big presence, but small brands have big presence as well. And then the final element we look at is what we call to the power of the moment, which is of critical importance because in today's world, every moment seems like a cultural moment. We can all connect around big cultural moments like sporting events, the Olympics, things like that, or more small cultural moments that we might be sharing together in a more meaningful way. And so we're actually measuring that, all four of those elements, to ultimately create an index score and see where brands are either over or underperforming on any of those elements.
So what is the average index score, and what are some examples, case studies, if you will, of companies that are above average, that are performing well on this particular index?
Yes, so we have a variety of different brands across the index. And I should mention, we're actually iterating daily and continuing to add more brands to the report and to the study. And so some of the brands that we see really well, some of the categories we actually see pretty well: financial services, sports. Sports is of course on fire. So there's quite a few brands that are really resonating strongly and continue to have that cultural momentum and continue to have that staying power and presence across our lives and in culture.
What are the best ways to achieve a strong brand, to score high on this particular index? Some of the tactics that can lead to overall success.
Great question, Kristen. So the most important thing when we think about brand desire, it's brands that have a strong conviction and understanding of who they are, what they stand for, and that is an enduring brand that they're trying to build. Another one is really having an idea of what communities do they want to resonate with and who do they want to serve. So actually speaking to consumers, actually understanding what motivates them, what drives them, what excites them, and then having a really strong marketing plan, frankly. So when we think about at MNC Saatchi, when we're working with our clients, sometimes we'll be working upstream with C-suite and doing advisory services, helping them identify what moments in culture should they participate in, what brand point of view should they have around certain things with those communities they want to resonate in, and then having that all the way through to a really strong brand experience, of course, whether that's a physical or digital brand experience, strong integrated communication, so we're actually making that one-on-one or many-to-many connection. And then finally, just seeing it through the marketing ecosystem and measuring and managing that as we go.
So taking those lessons, right, those foundational tools and metrics, Rhonda, and applying them to the current situation, which is oftentimes a volatile market and, of course, changing policy. How do you find that brands are navigating this particular environment?
Yeah, so we are in perhaps one of the most challenging environments that we've been in. There's a lot of volatility, as you mentioned, a lot of complexity. And what we always advise brands is to have your scenario plans, have your pivot plans. But regardless of what's going on in the world and the maybe chaotic environment around us, when brands have a solid conviction about who they are and what they stand for, and they are connecting with those consumers, that's going to win every time because they're going to have that staying power, building, as you said in the beginning, enduring brands that can actually navigate the change around us.
And you mentioned earlier different ways to get the message out there, to build your brand. What do you find are the most effective ways to do that, to communicate that authenticity and that message?
So that's a great question. We are living in perhaps the most fragmented media landscape that we've ever had. So brands actually today have more choices than ever in ways to connect. But it's always going to come back to understanding that community and how they want to connect. So if they're on social media, you should be on social media. If they are actually still paying attention to TV, you should be on TV. So there's a variety of different sources that we actually have to connect and communicate with those consumers. And it's really about that audience understanding.
Rhonda, Hiatt, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
A great lesson heading into the opening bell here, of course, in terms of the business implications and power that a brand can bring. Rhonda's the global CEO at NYSE Saatchi Consulting.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.